Testing the microphone again.
Testing the microphone again.
Guess who's cool? It's Hollie.
Nope. Hello, welcome to Good for a Change. This is a podcast that aims to combat the terrible news that you hear every day with news that's going to make you smile and feel happy inside and feel warm and cozy and all those sort of nonsense. I'm
Wow.
Jarrod, and with me making an sound is Hollie.
Hello, Hollie.
Hello, Hollie, and also with Sean.
Hi, Jarrod.
We've got some good news for you all listening this week, and I'm going to start this time.
Woohoo!
What? I mean, I've started before, but that's not the norm.
What a wild day.
Oh my gosh, it's like the Twilight Zone up in here. This is my story. A group of tourists in Iceland spent hours on a Saturday night looking for a missing woman near a large canyon.
Oh, that's good.
That's good for a... That's not the story,
Oh, good.
but it's part of the story.
Okay.
The search was called off, however, at 3 a.m. when they realised that the woman wasn't missing at all and was in fact part of the search party.
It's like
How did that go so wrong?
was this like an immersive theatre piece called like Where's Wally Live?
No, but that is an idea and a half.
Oh,
Cut
copyright.
it out.
Copyright.
The way it had worked out was that the woman had changed her clothes, and then these people...
Not into stripes.
She had a cane, was spinning it around and hanging out with a wizard. And there was a woman who looked a little bit
sorry.
like her in like yellow and black.
And then there was a small dog who was wearing a jumper. It was a weird time.
But you only ever saw his tail, which was weird. Anyway, so I'm so
So
sorry.
the woman had changed her clothes, and these people hadn't realised that she had changed her clothes. And then hadn't recognised the description that was given by the tour leader when they thought she was missing. So, completely unwittingly, she joined the search party, unaware that she was in fact searching for herself.
Oh,
Wow.
We've all been there.
Have we?
I've been to
Sorry for
paradise, but I've
myself.
never been to me.
Oh, dear.
That's just... At what point do you... How long do you think before 3 a.m. she realised what was going on?
Do you think she realised very quickly and then was like,
Oh, it's
Yeah.
too
oh,
awkward.
bother, I can't
I-
tell anyone.
Don't know what to do here,
If
yeah.
that was the situation, I would then run away from the group. And then be
and
like,
then be found?
Oh, I'm looking... Guys, can anyone find me?
Or just like lie on the ground and be like,
I feel
Small
like...
flag.
I feel like depending on what time they started, let's just say they started looking for him at like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like by midnight, and you've realised at this point that they're looking for you,
Yeah.
I feel like at that point it's like, I gotta commit to this, I'm gonna go break my leg. I'm just gonna jump off a small hill, crack my leg on a rock, and be like, no, look, you found me. What? No, I wasn't helping you look at about 10 o'clock. No, not at all.
My question is, did the people who were looking for her
Not
know
realise?
her well?
I don't know.
Because if I went missing and you started a search party and then I joined the search party,
it's not the party we'd be starting if you went missing, but...
unkind, but fine, surely you'd be like, oh, there's Hollie in the search party.
Right, so I don't know whether or not this is like a... Because it was a bunch of tourists, so I don't know if
Yeah.
it was like a tour group,
Like a coach trip
like
or
a coach
something.
trip, and maybe these people didn't, you
know them very
happen to
well.
know her very well. Like,
Yeah.
I've been on one of those coach trips. I spent 11 days with people, and I could not have told you what some of those people looked like
Right.
in the end. So, yeah, I do wonder whether or not she was just on her own on this tour group.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy for people to go missing.
Oh, of course.
In the sense of like,
Let's keep this
flashback.
upbeat.
No, it will. It's okay. It's no one goes missing for a long time in this story. But I flash back to
in this story,
in this, well, no.
tune in next week for Bad for a Change.
No, I'm just so back in 2008. Jarrod and myself, we went to New York with our friend Matt.
Yeah, we did.
And Matt
Oh.
is a wonderful guy, hilariously funny. We were 18, 19.
19,
It was
yeah.
the first time we left the country. We were country kids going to the big city for the first time.
Oh.
And we got to New York, and we were all a little bit freaked out, which we never told each other until 10 years on. But we were standing outside our hotel, and we're like, oh, Times Square's like just down the road. And we thought, well, we'll go see Times Square. So we walked up into Times Square, and this was back in the day where mobile phone mobile phones were not like they are today. They were not iPhones, kids. They were more like blocks. And not...
What do you mean? It didn't have a touch screen?
And not all of us had roving international ability. Jarrod and I did, but Matt did not. Now, I had discovered a theatre where a show that I was interested in was playing and ducked off the side street to see this, and Jarrod had seen that I had done that and followed me down the street. And it was only after we'd taken some pictures of the theatre that we realised that Matt had not seen us duck down this road.
We had been in New York at this point for 45 minutes.
Yes, 45 minutes, and we had already lost Matt in... And this was like pre-pedestrianised Times Square, so it was like the sidewalks were full of people.
Filled with people.
Absolutely rammed, and it was dark, and everyone was wearing a puffer jacket, and it was... We just lost him, and we were like, oh boy, what do we do? And we sort of ran back into Times Square, and luckily he hadn't wandered too far. And
No, what was good about Matt is he's quite tall, so we just saw his head just... above a bunch of like New Yorkers, and we're like, oh thank God, like it was terrifying. But then, right, bookending that holiday, we're about to leave, and by this point we were okay with Times Square. We sort of figured out how to navigate New York. We're all right with it.
We weren't crying secretly in our beds at night anymore.
No, we were. Well, I was, but for other reasons. So I went.
Matt's movie plots, for example.
We will get to that story shortly. We went back to Times Square. I don't know what we went for. Maybe just for one last look.
I think we went for a meal because there was a restaurant that promised free fries. And when we got there, we all ordered like free bottomless fries, but they were not free and they were not bottomless.
No, that's right. I've forgotten about that. That was such a bad memory of.
I think it was one of those it's one of those ads in America where after they get through all the health warnings that warn you that you're going to die, then was like the asterisk, and the asterisk was not available in like the Times Square flagship.
That could have been it.
Wow, that's horrific.
Yeah.
But
it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
But we're walking back then to our hotel, and I believe in order to get our taxi back to the airport to go home. And we turn around in almost the exact same spot, and Matt is missing again.
Wait a second. It happened in the middle as well.
There
was the day that it was snowing.
Yes.
And we went to Central Park, and we were... This was, like, the first time I've ever seen snow. I don't know about you guys, but we were, like, in Central Park. It was snowing. We were throwing
and it was
snowballs.
magnificent.
It was wonderful. Matt was very cold.
Yes.
Fair enough. And he decided he was going to go back to the hotel. That's what he told us. I'm going to go back to the hotel.
Classic
At that point,
Matt.
we hadn't tried the subway yet, but he was confident that he could use the subway.
Yep.
And so Jarrod and I stayed in the snow. That was all fine. Then we went back to the hotel and we burst in the door and we're like, Matt's not here. And again, Matt was the one of us that didn't have a working mobile phone. Or did we give you your one? I don't know.
I think we had given him my phone.
But the messages did not come through.
No.
And as such, Matt was missing. And we're like, what do we even do now?
We were in New York for 8 days and we lost Matt 3 times.
Admittedly, we found him every time. Which is great.
I mean,
he showed up. He was just like, he'd been shopping at Macy's or something.
He'd gone for a wander.
Showed up.
But just hadn't told us, which is fair enough. I mean, he isn't, he doesn't... He isn't a child.
I mean, we would, upon reflection...
We were children.
Children.
Oh, yeah. But, you said the story before about Matt's movie ideas. We had a night, maybe halfway through.
We've really derailed.
We have, but that's
and you know how I feel about steam trains.
We had a night, this is one of my favourite parts of that entire holiday, where for whatever reason I think the jet lag had hit us and we just couldn't sleep. And it was like 3 a.m. and I wake up to Sean laughing because Matt has gone to put a sheet back on the bed because it's come off and has decided, knowing Sean was awake, to start acting like a ghost. Right? So I wake up and there's Matt going, woo, dressed as a ghost, and Sean just like doing what he's doing now, which is just laughing his head off, right?
Oh.
So anyway,
10 years on, still
then
funny.
Then I can't get back to sleep after that. So I'm laying there just sort of thinking to myself and, not really thinking of anything. Sean, I think you weren't really thinking of anything. You were just...
I was just trying to go back to sleep,
to
be
go back
honest.
to sleep, yeah. And then after about an hour, we realised that we're all still awake. And Sean says, well, what have you been thinking about for the last hour? And I think it might have been the day before we went to Sesame Street.
Could have been.
And so I had been thinking about that because I was quite nervous, quite anxious, quite excited. And Matt goes, I've just come up with a movie idea. And I went, all right, I need to hear this. So he spent probably a good 10 minutes explaining
I think it was longer.
I
I feel like it was...
It felt a
was
lot longer.
long time.
But he told this story that he had come up with, this movie idea.
Which, admittedly, was a great film
Was
plot.
a great film plot, right? So good, in fact, that when he finished it, I said to him, Matt, you have just described, almost scene for scene, The Usual Suspects. And he was, I think, like, we talked to him about this recently, and I think he's still upset about it. That the fact that it had been done.
That's amazing. Had he seen The Usual Suspects?
No, he hadn't.
That's incredible.
Oh, see, I thought he had.
No, because I
And it
remember
was just
asking
like,
him,
Wow,
and he said no, he
that's
hadn't
very
seen
interesting. Well, they do say there's only 7 types of stories.
I mean, we completely derailed from my initial
Yeah.
story.
Speaking of capital American cities,
Yes.
I got a tale about Chicago, my friends.
Oh, wonderful.
One of my favourite cities.
A wonderful city. A wonderful city for many reasons, and this be one of them. Chicago has recently, in their libraries, removed return fees, late fees.
Oh.
Okay.
Late fees are gone.
Gone.
Thing of the past.
They're out of here.
Let me tell you for why.
Mm-hmm.
They have basically taken them away because they want to be able to provide, free information and free educational tools to maybe like lower income community members and students and, people who need that without the fear of the late return fee.
Yeah.
So the wonderful thing that has happened from this is that the return rate has surged to 240%.
Wow, I wondered if that would be the case.
Yeah, so many people came back and they were like, oh, I'm so glad you removed the late fee. Here's my book I've been hoarding. And they've got back so much of their inventory that, they would have had to spend on buying those books again.
Because it probably does get to a point where you start fearing the librarians. The wrath of the librarians. I've got this book, and maybe like innocently, you find a book like under your bed one day when you're cleaning, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's this library book that I borrowed months ago.
And you wouldn't return it.
You wouldn't return it because you're afraid of, how much is that going to cost me or whatever. That is a great idea.
240%. They're not the first city that's done it. Snow Isle in Washington has been doing it for 35 years, but they are kind of the biggest major city that have introduced it. And I think that's great because I am the worst for returning library books. I'm horrible at returning library books to the point they're like, I feel nervous going to the library because...
Tell me the truth. Did you bring any library books to Australia from London?
I did not, no.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Yep.
So I had a library card when I was a kid, and I went to the library all the time with my mum. My mum was the librarian at my school. So we'd go to the library.
So there was no escaping the late return fee in those
My
days
mum would
of
knock
Hollie's
on my
life.
door and be like, you don't get your allowance. That's not... No. So I had that library account when I was a kid, and then I think I moved away, I went to university, I went to London, and I stopped using that library. And then Sean and I moved back to the area when I was, 20, 21. And I got a new library card because I was like, oh, I've not had that library card for years, And I walk in and the woman's like, you're blacklisted. I was like, no!
Goodness, that's intense.
Do you remember?
Really? Yeah.
And she was like, you're blacklisted because you've got a book here that you took out in 2004 that you've not returned.
Oh, at that point, get
like,
over it, lady.
Yeah, she said, I'm going to strike it from your account. Don't panic about it. It's fine.
Okay.
But I had a book that I hadn't returned from 2004.
How much was the late fee?
She didn't say, but she took my house, so... Yeah, I'm not one for it. But recently, and this alleviates, I think, the need for the late fee, I downloaded an app where you can borrow from your local library. I think it's a pretty widespread app, and you can borrow audiobooks and you can borrow ebooks off of it. And you still have a set amount of time, so it's still a week or 2 weeks. depending on the thing, and you can't borrow it if someone else is borrowing it, so you can...
Really?
Yeah, because otherwise...
I think it's
everyone
it's
in the
still a licensable
world,
file.
yeah, everyone in the world would just be able to download that one book, and that's not kind of the point.
Because
It's
libraries
just
still do pay
to own,
Okay,
to own,
the
that's right,
rights
yeah.
of
own the
book.
books and those kind of things. So
But it basically is just removed from your account at the end of that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, your week's up, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of that because it's so convenient. It's not got every book in the world, and the more popular books, so like, you know, the big sellers at the moment are not gonna be available straight away.
Yeah.
I think the Margaret Atwood book, The Testaments, is like a 9-month wait.
Okay.
I was like, do you know what? I think I'll just buy it.
At that point, yeah, just spend the $12 on Kindle and off you go.
But I think that's a really cool thing, because again, it's access to that information that maybe I can't get to a library because I've not got a car, or, you know, I'm not such a great reader as I am a listener, so it's better for me in that sense as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've recently discovered. We obviously listen to a lot of podcasts, but I hadn't really got on the
Do you listen to
audiobook.
Good for a Change?
I do, yeah, multiple times a week.
It's weird. I listen to it once when I record it.
No, so I hadn't really got on the audiobook wagon, because I do like reading. I'm quite an avid reader, but then I don't find an awful lot of time to read at the moment. And we were flying back from Brisbane the other day, and I downloaded an audiobook, probably because Audible had a free book for me or something, because I'd signed up for it. And I thought, well, I'll download something. And I downloaded a book that I had been looking at buying, but sort of couldn't find the funds at the time to kind of afford the book. And I thought, well, I'm gonna download this. I'm gonna listen to it. I don't know what it's gonna be like. It might be okay. I don't know what this listening experience is gonna be. And it was great. And I thought, this is fantastic that this is now a way that I can engage with these texts. And with the library thing and knowing what your library has available to you, I didn't know so much was available. And I think a lot of people don't know what their libraries can offer them, because you just assume it's like, oh, it's just books or whatever. But a library can offer you so much. And we're very lucky because we have a friend, Leanne, who is a librarian in the States, and she's always posting things about what their library do.
Okay.
Like an audiobook library that's free to access and all these kind of things. And I thought, like, oh wow, I had no idea that was a thing. And then sure enough, you know, the local libraries here in Australia do a similar program. So it's been very insightful. So I recommend either getting a librarian for a friend or getting a library card and just going to find out what you can do at your local library.
You know what Arthur always says? Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
That's true.
That's a cracking show.
So the apps are called BorrowBox. BorrowBox is the one that's linked to my library. But there's also one called Libby, which I believe is the one that I was told about initially. And I think you just have to look on
Your library.
on your library website and see which one they're kind of linked up to. I think there's a few different ones, but it'll say on your library's website.
Link those.
Cool. Well, Holly, I'm going to take a leaf out of your book and talk
well
about
done.
trees.
Oh, I love trees.
Is it about email? Because we've done this.
No, it's not about email. It's something even bigger than tree mail.
Okay.
Which I'm still waiting for that to catch on, by the way. Tech startups, get on to me. This is called the Great Green Wall. And it's an initiative in Africa where they are trying to stop the spread of the desert by building across, I think it's like over 20 African countries, a green wall that will be, when it is complete, it's over 8,000, it'll be over 8,000 kilometers long and be the world's largest natural wonder. I think it's like 3 times larger than the size of the Great Barrier Reef.
Wow.
That's very cool.
And now not only is it to stop the impacts of the desert spreading and those kind of things, but the whole point of it is to it's obviously got climate a good climate message. It combats a number of climate change issues, but it also gives millions of people jobs, food security,
But also someone to respond to all the emails that those trees get.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tree mail.
And that's the big thing, really.
But it is going to provide millions of jobs in these countries that quite often have lower employment rates and those kind of things. And as the desert is spreading, these jobs were already getting less, and the impacts of the climate was going to have on this part of the world was going to be so significant. So it was this initiative that was set up, I think, initially in 2010. There was this great idea of like, let's make this giant green wall. I think you'll be able to see it from space, kind of thing. Like, and let's see what it does. And this idea is that it will help save us. And it's not a short-term plan. It wasn't like, let's plant 8,000 kilometers of trees today.
Yeah.
No, it's going over a long period of time.
Yep.
So I think by 2030, their aim is to have restored 100 million hectares of degraded land.
Wow.
Which is huge.
That is enormous.
It is absolutely enormous. Already now, though, there's already results. And so in Senegal, 12 million trees have been planted in less than a decade. 12 million trees.
That's incredible, isn't it?
That's a lot of emails.
What?
We keep harking back.
Kind of trees are they?
I think it's all different depending on where they are. There's a lot of different trees and plants.
Are indigenous to the area.
Yeah, and it's also, a lot of it is food, trying to grow new food crops and things. So in Niger, there's been 5 million hectares of land that's been reclaimed, and that's allowed for 500,000 tons of extra food or something a year.
Wow.
Which can feed up to 2.5 million people.
That's really significant.
Like, it's a huge, significant difference, and it's changing that climate and what's able to be grown there and the benefits of that down the line. So it's a huge impact. Also because, like, more trees again, more tree houses.
It's true. I do like a tree house.
Yeah.
I've been so upset my whole life I never got to have a tree house.
Same. Oh my gosh. So in the UK, there
are no trees.
There are no trees. It's so weird. I live in the New Forest and it's just grass. That's true, but not relevant. There's this hardware store, I guess. It's kind of like Bunnings, called B&Q. And at the B&Q that my parents would take me to as a child, they had a whole playhouse, greenhouse, tree house section. And holy heck. Oh my goodness. They were some great tree houses. They had like 2-story ones.
Oh,
they had ones that had like different rooms. And I don't know why you were allowed in them, because I feel like now they'd like put them on a platform and they'd be like, this is what's in this tree house. But they were all like built of wood and they were incredible. They were like really, really amazing tree houses.
Well, they probably let kids in there so that
at least the parents to buy them.
Well, pest the parents to buy them, but also at least the parents know, okay, well, the kid's obviously going to get some enjoyment out of it.
They're keen for a tree house.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really, really great time.
They used to have little treehouse models here in Toys R Us, and I remember going in once, and I was maybe 17 at the time, and me and a couple of friends went in there, and we like got into the treehouse, and the guy came up and asked us to leave the store. Not even just, excuse me, can you please get out of the treehouse? No, it was, get out of the store.
And that's why Toys R Us isn't around anymore.
That's it. Jarrod 1, Toys R Us 0.
That's a shame, because I can imagine that you were going to buy that treehouse. You just needed to try before you buy.
I definitely was, because at 17 I had that much money.
I was just thinking about that guy that has made like the world's largest treehouse. I don't know if you've seen it. It quite often pops up on...
Is it Tarzan?
No.
Are you thinking of George of the Jungle?
No.
Okay.
No, there is a guy and he's built like the world's largest treehouse, and it's been a many, many, many year process. And I think I have a feeling it might be one of these people that like did it for like a religious reason kind of thing, but he's made this whopping great big treehouse that people come and visit, and it's magical. Like, it's the woodwork he's done and all these kind of things. I'll find pictures of it and put it on the Instagram stories. But he's just made this most incredible treehouse, and it's not just like up in the air, but it is up a tree as well, and it's on the ground and everything. I think he was having issues with like it being licensed to allow people in, because I think it was like
the question
getting a bit too much.
I've got about that though is, if you spend years building a tree house, especially around an actual tree that's living and growing,
does that tree then ruin the tree house?
Well, that's it. At one point, is the wood going to be, sort of hitting against a tree that's growing? Eventually that wood's going to have to give.
True. I wonder if you kind of cut it out as you go, or do you give it room?
I mean, sometimes trees
You
swallow
might give it
things.
room.
I've seen pictures of like trees that
That's
have
very
swallowed
true.
benches.
Or
and,
bicycles.
Like, bicycles, like
Yeah.
all sorts of things. Like
Yeah.
trees do. I've seen a tree swallowing its own branch at a garden we used to work at. It just sort of like,
That's wild.
this branch had sort of grown up alongside a branch and it just sort of merged into the trunk and was popping out another way. So trees eat things. That's the moral of this story.
When I was a kid, there was a pub that my parents used to go to. And they'd take us there, and they had this really, I can only describe it as very, very 90s tree house, in inverted commas, toy thing. So it was thick plastic.
Yep.
Imagine like a little tyke spike.
Yeah.
Giant tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it had a slide in it. And I used to love it when I was a kid. I was like, this thing is amazing. And then flash forward to me age 17.
There's a trend here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's embarrassing stories in overly plasticked tree houses.
This isn't embarrassing. I had got in touch with a friend that I went to primary school with. Weirdly, through Mika, we didn't know that we went to
Oh
school
no,
together.
we just rebuilt the listeners.
Didn't even see Mika again? Because that's had a great reaction so far.
Yeah, so like we met on Twitter because we both like Mika, and then we were like, oh my gosh, we went to school together. So I went to
Anyway, go on.
I went round this friend's house, and in her back garden they had the tree
Wow.
from the pub.
The actual
The
one?
actual tree. She
Not
was
like
oh,
one, not like another one, like the actual
no,
one.
the actual one. She's like, oh, did you ever go to the Royal Oak when you were a kid? This is the tree. And I was like, mind blown. It was incredible.
Wow.
Hi, Evie. If you're listening, you won't be. If you are, though.
If you are, can we have that tree?
It was,
Send us a picture.
it's like, you know,
No, send us the tree.
such as the tree to Australia. You know when you forget something exists and then you don't just like see a picture of it or remember it, it's there.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 4.
Yeah.
Like, I am 4 again. This is incredible.
We recently went through and cleaned out our house.
Yeah.
We just went through literally front of the house to the end and got rid of a mile of stuff. And we would find things like under the stairs that have been there for 20 years that I haven't thought about since I was 10 years old. Books. Our old keyboard was in there. That still works. All this sort of different stuff. And I was like, I have not thought about this since I was 10 years old. And it's great being able to now share those, like with our with my nieces. To be able to sit there and be like, I read this book, you know, you can see all the torn pages and the dog-eared pages. Now it's your turn. And they look at it and go, oh, great, I'm going to go play on the iPad.
This is old.
This is old and so are you.
That tree's from the 90s, Jarrod. That's amazing, though. That's so great that they're... and that they banded together to do that, like, as a nation, as a
Yeah, and
continent.
it crosses
That's incredible.
not just nations, but it crosses religions. It crosses all sorts of different
Yes, it's-
socio divides. So it's an incredible project to
Is it? I mean, no, it's not. But when I first heard the story, I thought it was just like one single line of trees.
I think when you see the logo that they've made, it is like a sweeping like line
Yeah,
across
yeah.
it. And when you see the areas that they're planting in, it does
Yeah.
sort of make a line across the continent.
Yeah,
It goes from like
Obviously,
west
it
to
will
east.
be a lot thicker than just one single
Yes.
row of trees.
Yeah, it's just
That
a
would
few
be
more than that.
unimpressive.
That would be. I actually think it almost would be
Yeah.
more impressive.
You know what's wild? You know when you are driving through the countryside, nature, and you drive past like a tree farm, like a Christmas tree farm
Yes.
or a tree, but like the big ones.
Yep.
And you drive past and you're like, wow, look at all those trees. And then you get to like the angle and you see how perfectly in a line they
Yes.
are.
Mm,
Oh my, it's like in a video game. That's how
it's
it
very
feels.
cool. Yeah.
It's really like satisfying to look at. It's like, that's not real. That's not how trees grow. Oh, I love that. That's what I hope is happening in Africa.
I mean, I think it's a varying amount of projects, but yes.
I also don't imagine they have Christmas trees.
They might.
People do.
But then, well, speaking of Christmas, may I quickly tease a little bit that next week is going to be a Christmas episode.
It is indeed. It's going to be a bit festive.
I'm going to wear a Christmas jumper that you guys won't be able to see.
I'm going to eat a turkey.
A whole turkey.
The whole show, you'll just hear
ASMR.
me eating a turkey.
I mean, don't tempt me. I will cook you a turkey and make you eat it.
I don't like turkey that much.
Nope,
I
you've
rescind
committed.
my comments.
Well, besides your love of Christmas trees, Hollie, what's good in your life?
It's a bit late news, but I've been thinking about it a lot this week. My brother recently graduated from his degree.
Woohoo!
And I am just so endlessly proud of him, because he does have some difficulties with reading and writing, things like that. But he is, and you can vouch for this because you know a lot about rain now, Jarrod. He is one of the cleverest people.
He is very switched on.
Yeah.
He's incredible, and I am just so proud of him for finishing his degree and like doing awesome and just absolutely smashing it. He is now a forensic scientist.
So if you have any murders that need investigating, contact Hollie's brother.
I saw the photo of him and your sister.
Yeah.
And him in his hat and his gown. He looked very proud of himself.
Yeah.
And
As he should.
As
be.
he should be. As he
absolutely.
should be.
He's done very
He's
well.
done amazing.
I think he's great. Honestly, I just think it's incredible that you can get the support and you can get the help while in university education that will kind of guide you through, and really, like, to me, it means anyone can do anything in the world.
Yeah.
Like, no excuses.
100%.
If my brother's a forensic scientist now, I didn't have to drop out of university year one.
And I didn't have to do an animation degree. Oops.
Well, now we're all here utilising those skills.
Subscribe.
Okay, Sean, what's good in your life?
What is good in my life? We recently, this is going to involve Matt again because Matt is just the theme of
We're
this
going to have to
podcast.
get Matt on at some point.
Maybe we should just call this episode like The Welcome Matt.
Ooh, done.
Done.
So we recently had a games night with Matt. I haven't seen Matt since the wedding, which was 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice having Matt and his girlfriend Alice come down and play some board games with us, which is something that we've done for years now.
Absolutely.
It is a games night, is a tradition for us as a group of friends, and it was so nice to relive all that again and play games with you guys, because I miss it when we don't get to do it so often, and it's really been nice to play games again.
We played, well, yeah, I like you've always got the good games.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Like, to the point where I actually went and bought copies of 2 of the games you have.
I should also say that, like, most of the luggage we brought with us was like, we'll bring some clothes and then we'll bring some board games. And to get a number of the board games across in the least, because board games take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
What we do is we take a lot of them out of their boxes and condense them into another game's box.
That's it. You guys opened a box the other day, and there are about 5 games
Yeah.
contained in that one game box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very good at compressing
We're
things
very
down.
passionate about board games.
You are.
Very.
Like, we played, I remember playing in England. At one point, I bought for your birthday, Sean, Mario Monopoly. Mario Kart Monopoly.
No, not Kart, just normal Mario.
Is it Mario?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mario Monopoly. And we got it home, and we thought, right, let's sit down and we're going to play this. And this is one of our last nights in England. And... Just remember where this is going. And so it's myself, Matt, Sean, and Hollie. And we start playing this game. And
The mistake happened at the beginning.
a mistake happened at the beginning.
The mistake was, let's make Hollie the banker.
Yes. That was the mistake, right? Hollie was the banker. And that is just never what you should do in any sort of game that involves really anything. You should not be in charge. But all of a sudden, Hollie and I start doing a lot better than Matt and Sean. But not significantly better.
I'll be honest, I didn't notice.
No, just a little bit better, right? And so the entire time we're playing, Hollie and I are sneaking each other money.
But in a way that is, 1, discreet, 2, believable.
Yes.
So it would never be Jarrod would have 20 tokens. if I had 3 tokens and Jarrod had 7 tokens, I would take 2 tokens out of the box, give 1 to me and 1 to Jarrod.
Yes. And then we would do things, because we were sitting on the floor playing this game, we would do things where Hollie would have her hand, like, rested on the floor, and there'd be a token underneath it, and then she would move it. And because I'm sitting next to her, I would then put my hand exactly where hers was, and I would take it.
You two are a nightmare.
And we played for a good hour and a half, and didn't reveal that we had been cheating.
I still felt like I was in the game I was like, I'm not doing so bad. I could win this.
Yeah, no, you were never going to win.
I think the thing is, high key, in a massive way, I suck at Monopoly.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really horrible at Monopoly. I've got no plan as to how it's going to go down. I just buy things up and then I'm immediately in debt. And then I have to sell it and then I cry and then I flip the board.
And this is where I think why I didn't notice you guys cheating was because Mario and Monopoly is fun in such a way and it's played in a different style.
Yeah, there's more things going on.
That it was enjoyable going around. Whereas if I just noticed that someone suddenly had like $9 million,
Yeah.
I'd be...
And it's quite an immersive game in that while it's not, okay, you're just watching someone else take their turn, dum-de-dum-de-dum. It's quite immersive, so you're also, getting into it
Focused
on other things,
Yeah.
which allows Hollie and I to sneak each other tokens.
Incredible.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is I know in the back of Jarrod's car there's a copy of Monopoly Cheaters Edition.
Yes, we
and
haven't played it yet.
I'm looking forward to some revenge. So maybe that'll be my good news in a future week.
Although I'm going to play that completely by the rules.
Yeah. Because you get penalised in that game if you cheat.
And you're caught.
Sorry, and you're caught.
Yes.
So obviously the aim of the game is to cheat, but if you cheat and you're caught, then you go to prison, and I believe, and this might not be true, you get handcuffed to the board.
Yeah, which seems like just an accident waiting to happen.
That feels like me throwing the board
Yeah,
immediately.
absolutely.
What's good in your life, Jarrod?
I have really been enjoying the new Disney Plus streaming service. What an excellent... I've been excited for this thing since they announced it, mid last year.
It's been a while.
And I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for it. And then I woke up... Again, Matt is involved in this story. I woke up because Matt had sent me a message at 7:30 in the morning. This thing wasn't meant to launch until 9 a.m. 7:30 in the morning telling me that it had launched. With gifs of the "It's happening" gif. And so, me, exhausted, because I hadn't gone to bed until late the night before.
Because you're so excited
Because I was so excited about Disney Plus. Woke up and, in my stupor, signed up for Disney Plus. And then sat there, half asleep, and just went through adding things to my list.
Yeah.
And it's great. So far, I've watched DuckTales.
Nice.
Which is
New or
Woohoo.
old?
new, because I just finished season 1, and
Nice.
season 2 was on here.
Right.
I've watched The Simpsons. I have watched some of The World According to Jeff Goldblum,
Interesting.
which is genuinely great. He's a weird dude, but he's wonderful.
Jeff finds a way onto your playlist.
I don't get the reference.
It's a Jurassic Park reference. Life
Jurassic Park.
finds a way.
Oh, Life Finds a Way. Okay, now I got it.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Imagine Jurassic Park, but it's giraffes.
Oh man, that sounds
That's just
awesome.
a zoo.
You've got so much joy on your face right now. But what I was going to talk about is, and I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, the Imagineering story. Although we've already spoken a little bit about Disneyland in the past.
Yes.
It is magnificent. It's really heartwarming. It's got really nice moments in it. It has completely never before seen behind the scenes footage.
Wow.
You guys are gonna have to get on it if you
Sean,
haven't
you
watched
look
it yet.
so stressed that you've not already watched it.
Wait, you got paid today.
Yeah.
I've got a new good thing that's happened this week.
Yep.
Hollie got paid, which means I'm going to sign up for Disney Plus.
Okay, great. Straight after this, you're gonna do it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Right now. He's doing it now.
If you have signed up for Disney Plus, no, if you've got good news. Sorry, Jarrod, continue on your...
No, that's it.
That was it?
That's
Okay.
it. I don't want to spoil it. I could talk about specifics, but I don't want to get yelled at.
Oh, Imaginarium. You've got the Imaginarium book, haven't you?
Yes, but it's so heavy that it is not in the country.
Haven't I got your Imagineering book? Or I have a copy.
So what happened was...
Wait, you have a copy of my book as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was...
That's right.
I'm going to start the story now.
Yeah, go for it.
So what happened was...
Do you remember what happened, Sean?
I hate you.
Is Matt involved in this story?
Yeah, always. So I was texting Matt. No, so what happened was I was ordering the book for Sean for his birthday, the Imaginarium book.
Because it was too heavy when we were at Disneyland to bring it home with us.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love Sean so much, I'm going to get him this book. So I went on Amazon and I tapped it in. I'm going to say now, it's not cheap, which will be important later in the story. Tapped it in, ordered it, hit send, and then 2 days later realised I'd sent it to my address in London. And we were living in Brisbane.
Ooh, awkward.
Not the same place. So I had to reorder the book, again, not a cheap book, to Brisbane. And then I had to tell Sean, you've got the book 2 times. So when we left Brisbane to move to London, I gave you the new book, the Brisbane book, and we had to go to my housemates in London who had been saving the book for a year and pick up the book from the Piccadilly Theatre where that housemate was working.
Oh, yeah! I was like, I don't remember going to their house to pick it up, and now I remember that, yes. And then I had to lug it around London that day.
Yeah. And it's not a light
It is
book at
not
all.
a light book,
It's
and
real
this
heavy.
is why it has not come back to
Yeah, so if
Australia.
we can have the original one
Absolutely
back.
not. That's mine now. I have drawn Mickey Mouse all over it.
It will come back.
Yeah.
We need to buy another suitcase. Well, if you've got a book that you really enjoy or any other good news that you'd like to share with us, you can do so via our email, which is goodforachangepodcast@gmail.com. Anything you send us may feature in an episode. Maybe you've got a little follow-up to one of the stories we've said. You can send us that too, and we'll put
You know what I'd really appreciate?
What?
Is if in the subject line of the email it said, Good News Tree Mail.
Good news tree mail.
Good News Tree Mail.
Maybe that's what we should be calling it now. Good News Tree Mail.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, send us your good news tree mail to goodforachangepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. I worry that we're going to
So-
start saying at treemail.com.
Yeah.
Treemail.com.
Because that's not going anywhere.
No.
And if you'd like to see more of what we're doing or see some of the things that we've been talking about in the podcasts, you can follow us on our social media. So we are Good for a Change Podcast on Instagram, and you can follow us on Facebook at Lazy Creations Group. And we post on there semi-regularly. Sort of weird things if you don't listen to the podcast. It's sort of a weird collection.
Those were good stories.
Thank you.
Did you have a good time?
I had a wonderful time, Jarrod.
Did you have a good time, Sean?
10 out of 10.
I had an absolute 11 out of 10.
Whoa, I think that review might be a bit high for the iTunes store. So
Well, then what can I give it in the iTunes store?
if you would like to, and I do demand this
Every week.
every week, a 5 out of 5 stars on the iTunes store would be wonderful.
But what if someone only wants to give it like 4 stars?
Unfortunately, that is not allowed. It is not part of the Good for a Change policy.
Okay.
And
good
you
news only.
can find our policy document in your brain.
Okay, good. I was wondering where that was going.
I don't have the time or the energy to write the policy document, but if you just sort of imagine what it looks like, it's like a long scroll. It's got a red ribbon on it, and it says policy, good for a change, today's date, and then it says only 5-star reviews allowed.
Okay, great. I mean, I feel like we're demanding, but I think that'll going to work.
Yeah, I think so too.
If you also get to the point in the policy document where you think, yeah, I'm down for all of this, you might want to subscribe. Please do. We need as many listeners as possible to keep hearing more about our policy document on a weekly basis. But we have good news coming out on a weekly basis, and we'd love to share it with you. So please do subscribe and tell your friends.
And I think the best news is that they don't actually have to read a policy.
Yeah.
Because I never read a policy.
No.
Terms and conditions.
Oh, I'm an immediate agreeer.
Yeah. You don't even have to agree with this. It's already inside your brain.
Ooh, nice. Well, on that note, Thank you very much, Hollie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jarrod. You are welcome.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.